Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the 2023 Annual Stockholders Meeting of China Bank Corporation, being conducted virtually. I am Dodgy Florentino, your host for today. Let me introduce the members of the Board of Directors with us today. Chairman Hans C. Vice Chairman Gilbert D. President and CEO Romeo Uyan Jr. Our other directors, Mr. Peter D., Mr. Joaquin D., Mr. Herbert C., Mr. Harley C., Mr. Jose Shaw, Ms. Margarita San Juan, Mr. Philip Tsai, Ms. Claire Ann Yap, and Mr. Genaro Lapez, as well as our board director, Mr. Ricardo Chua. Also logged in are members of the bank's management team: Aloysius Alday, Patrick Cheng, Jose Osmeña Jr., Magnolia Palanca, Delphine Sabido, Ryan Tapia, and Ms. Lillian Yu. Let me now give the floor to the Chairman of the Board of Directors of China Banking Corporation, Mr. Hans C.
Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for joining us this afternoon. Similar to our regular meeting last year, today's annual meeting of stockholders is an online event only. Joining us in this meeting are your board members, led by Vice Chairman Gilbert D., President and CEO Romy Uyan, Lead Independent Director and Chairman of the Nomination and Corporate Governance Committee, Ms. Margarita San Juan, and Independent Director and Audit Committee Chairperson, Ms. Claire Ann Yap. Our Board of Advisors, Mr. Rick Chua, Corporate Secretary, Attorney Leilani Elarmo, Investors Relation Group Head, Mr. Dodgy Florentino, and representative of our external auditor, SGB and Company, and Transfer Agent Service, Stock Transfer Service, Inc., are also present. I am now calling the meeting to order. The next item in our agenda is the proof of notice of meeting. Madam Secretary, have we sent the required notice of meetings?
Good afternoon, Mr. Chairman. Yes, we have notified our stockholders about this meeting in accordance with the bank's bylaws, Securities and Exchange Commission, or the SEC's Memorandum Circular Number 6, Series of 2020, Sections 23, 49, 50, 57, and other related provisions of the Revised Corporation Code, and SEC notice dated March 13, 2023, on the alternative mode for distributing documents in connection with the holding of annual stockholders meeting for 2023. We have also published, Mr. Chairman, the notice of today's meeting in the business section of the Philippine Star and Philippine Daily Inquirer in print and online formats on March 13 and 14, 2023. Likewise, electronic copies of our information statement, management report, annual report, and other pertinent documents are available on our website, www.chinabank.ph, and on the Philippine Stock Exchange or the PSE's EDGE portal.
Thank you. Number 3 in our agenda is the certification of quorum. Do we have a quorum, Madam Secretary?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, I certify the existence of a quorum for this meeting based on record out of a total number of 2,691,288,212 subscribed and outstanding shares. The holders of 2,111,753,833 shares, or 78.47% shares, are present by proxy, by remote communication, or in absentia. Such number represents more than 2/3 of the outstanding capital stock of the bank. The final count of attendees will be reflected in the minutes, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Next in our agenda is the approval of the minutes of the 2022 annual stockholders meeting. May we have the proposed resolution and results of voting for this agenda item, Madam Secretary?
Mr. Chairman, the minutes of the annual meeting of stockholders on May 5, 2022 can be accessed through the bank's website, and it was included in the bank's definitive information statement. For this item in the agenda, Mr. Chairman, the adoption of the resolution displayed on the screen is being proposed in order to approve the minutes for all intents and purposes. On the votes cast, 2,111,690,842 shares, or 99.99% of the shares represented in this meeting, voted in favor of the resolution. Therefore, Mr. Chairman, the resolution is approved.
Thank you. The next item in the agenda is the annual report to stockholders to provide information about the bank's activities, business, and financial performance, and other relevant data for the year 2022. I now request our President and CEO, Mr. Romy Uyan Jr., to deliver his report.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. To our shareholders, clients, partners, and friends, a pleasant good afternoon. Let me begin by thanking the board for giving me the opportunity to serve as China Bank President and CEO. Since joining in 2014, I had seen how the bank had evolved and become very convinced of its solid fundamentals. I'm excited to lead our incredible team of over 10,000 employees to scale up our operations in the coming years. In a year marked by geopolitical tension and decades-high inflation, the global economy slowed down to 3.4% in 2022. Amid the headwinds, the Philippine economy grew by 7.6% as pent-up demand from the easing of COVID restrictions more than offset the impact of inflation. Despite the challenges, our country was back to its pre-pandemic growth path. The reopening of the economy was good for businesses, and for China Bank in particular, as it enabled us to achieve record financial results. On the back of our robust operating income and effective cost management, our net profits grew by 27% to 19.1 billion, more than double our net income since 2018, and the highest amongst private mid-sized banks. This translated to a return on equity of 15.1% and to a return on assets of 1.6%. Despite the large increase in interest expense, net interest income improved by 17% to 45.6 billion, buoyed by top-line revenues. Net interest margin remained healthy at 4.2%. Non-interest income, on the other hand, rose by 5% to 10.1 billion. We maintained our efficiency despite a moderate increase in our OPEX, with our cost-to-income ratio improving to 44%. China Bank became the fourth largest private domestic bank, with total assets up 20% to 1.3 trillion, underpinned by double-digit growth in loans, investment securities, and deposits. Our loan portfolio increased to 718 billion. Corporate and business loans accounted for 80% of our total loans, as we continued to cater to the business requirements of our clients. Despite our increased lending, we recorded better than industry NPL ratio of 2.3% and NPL coverage ratio of 123%. On the funding side, we breached the trillion peso mark in deposits on sustained growth across all our various liability products. CASA deposits increased to 573 billion for a CASA ratio of 54%. We continued to maintain a very strong capital position, which allowed us to respond accordingly to market movements. Our total capital reached 135 billion, giving us a common equity tier 1 ratio of 15.1% and a total capital adequacy ratio of 15.9%. We have sustained our CET1 ratio well above regulatory thresholds, while continuing to distribute to our shareholders their fair share of profits. In 2022, we paid out a total of 4 billion in cash dividends. Recognizing our stable capitalization and profitability, Moody's affirmed China Bank's investment grade rating with a stable outlook last year. It is also worth noting that we continue to help strengthen the Philippine capital markets via China Bank Capital. China Bank Capital has been named by the prestigious Asset Magazine as the best domestic bond advisor for the 7th year in a row. It led equity and debt capital transactions that raised 1.2 trillion for the public and private companies in 2022. It has remained the top local debt house and the most active investment house in terms of equity IPOs with 5 issuances. As we pursued growth, we continue to work towards governance excellence, digitalization, and sustainability. We are committed to maintain high governance standards and to adopt best practices to ensure the bank's long-term success. For our outstanding performance in the 2021 ASEAN Corporate Governance Scorecard, the ASEAN Capital Markets Forum, or ACMF, once again named China Bank as among the top 20 publicly listed companies in ASEAN and among the top 3 in the Philippines. The Institute of Corporate Directors, ACMF's domestic ranking body, conferred its highest governance recognition to China Bank, the 5 Golden Arrow Award, making us the only bank in the country with such an honor. Technology has paved the way for fast, convenient, innovative, and inclusive banking services. In 2022, we continue to strengthen our digital capabilities to bring the bank closer to the homes of our customers. To make it easy and affordable for more Filipinos to open a bank account, we launched our account opening mobile app, China Bank Start. We also continue to be active in the digital payment space to promote financial inclusion. China Bank was amongst the first banks to be part of PesoNet, InstaPay, and QRPH. We deployed more self-service devices, ATMs, cash recyclers, cash accept machines, and POS terminals so customers can choose how and when to bank. In 2022, our shift to electronic and digital channels continued, accounting for 70% of the bank's total transactions. Sustainability has always been part of our way of doing business for the past 100 years. To ensure that our initiatives are clearer, we have redefined our sustainability strategy by focusing on resilience, value creation, and environmental impact. We have established a Sustainability Oversight Committee to ensure the implementation of our ESG initiatives across the bank's various functions. To further elevate and improve our existing policies and frameworks, we formally engaged Moody's Analytics to become our sustainability consultant. Moving forward, global growth is expected to moderate this year. Meanwhile, the Philippines is seen to weather the economic slowdown as the expected resilience of domestic demand, the full reopening of the economy, and the continued implementation of structural reforms will provide positive ripple effects. The country is yet to fully realize the impact of foreign liberalization laws, such as the amendments to the Retail Trade Liberalization Act, Public Services Act, and the Renewable Energy Act. The Corporate Recovery and Tax Incentives for Enterprises Act, or the CREATE, will also reduce some of the cost of doing business in the country, thereby enticing more direct foreign investments in the coming years. Encouraging public-private partnerships to address the country's infrastructure backlog will also help spur the development despite an expected tighter fiscal purse. For China Bank, we will continue to leverage our extensive distribution network and exceptional human resources to pursue expansion opportunities and deliver sustainable outcomes. For the coming year, we have identified 3 focus areas of growth. We will continue to diversify our depositor base to deliver robust growth in our low-cost funds. We will continue to grow our consumer portfolio product suites to better address the needs of our clients. And finally, we will continue to diversify our fee income streams while sustaining momentum in our core business lines. I believe China Bank is well positioned for significant growth for this year and beyond. We have a solid strategy and, more importantly, a highly driven and capable team to deliver on our plans and growth ambitions. We owe all of our accomplishments to you, our employees, customers, shareholders, and partners. It is our privilege and honor to work with you and for you. On behalf of the Board of Directors of China Bank, thank you very much for your continued trust and support.
Thank you, Romy. Madam Secretary, may we have the proposed resolution on this item and the voting results?
Mr. Chairman, the adoption of the resolution displayed on the screen is being proposed in order to approve the annual report, which is available on the bank's website and PSE Edge portal, and as presented by our President and CEO, Romeo D. Uyan Jr. On the votes cast, 2,111,690,842 votes, or 99.99% of the shares represented in this meeting, voted in favor of the resolution. Thus, the resolution is approved, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, next item in the agenda is the approval of the bank's audited financial statements. In his annual report earlier, President Romy Uyan Jr. presented the financial performance and changes in the bank's financial positions for the year 2022. May we have the proposed resolution on this item and voting results, Madam Secretary?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, the audited financial statements for the year 2022 was also included in our information statement posted on the bank's website. For this item in the agenda, the adoption of the resolution displayed on the screen is being proposed in order to approve the 2022 audited financial statements. On the voting results, Mr. Chairman, 2,111,690,842 shares, or 99.99% of the shares represented in this meeting, voted in favor of the resolution. The resolution is therefore approved.
Thank you. The next item in the agenda is the ratification of all acts of the Board of Directors, Executive Committee, other committees, and management. Madam Secretary, do we have the proposed resolution and voting results for this matter?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, we have shown on the screen the proposed resolution for the stockholders to ratify all acts of the Board of Directors, Executive Committee, other committees, and management during the year 2022 and immediately preceding this stockholders meeting, including the ratification of related party transactions. On the voting results, Mr. Chairman, 2,111,690,842 shares, or 99.99% of the shares represented in this meeting, voted for the adoption of the resolution. The resolution is approved and adopted, Mr. Chairman.
The next order of business is the election of the members of the Board of Directors for 2023 to 2024. Lead Independent Director and Chairperson of the Nominations and Corporate Governance Committee, Ms. Margarita San Juan, will announce the nominees.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chairman. Based on the determination of the Nominations and Corporate Governance Committees, and as confirmed by the Board of Directors, the following nominees for directors and independent directors were found to be fit and proper for the position and possess all the qualifications and none of the disqualifications of a director or independent director, and their capabilities are aligned with the bank's strategic directions. The nominees for director are Mr. Hans T.C., Mr. Gilbert U.D., Mr. Romeo D. Uyan Jr., Mr. Peter S.D., Mr. Joaquin T.D., Mr. Herbert T.C., Mr. Harley T.C., and Mr. Jose T. Shaw. The nominees for the independent directors are Ms. Margarita L. San Juan, Mr. Philip S. L. Chai, Ms. Claire Ann T. Yap, and Mr. Genaro V. Lapez.
Thank you, Ms. San Juan. Before we proceed with the results of the election, let me express my deepest gratitude to Mr. William Huang for having been part of the bank for 11 years and a member of the Board of Directors and bank president for more than 5 years. He provided consistent and strong leadership and stewardship towards the bank's sustained strong growth even amid the pandemic. On behalf of the Board of Directors, I would like to thank Mr. Wang for all his years of dedication and unparalleled service to the bank. Madam Secretary, may we have the result of the elections?
Mr. Chairman, for the ensuing year, the bank shall have 8 regular directors and 4 independent directors. Based on the tally of votes and as confirmed by CCIP Gores Velayo and Company, the independent party tasked to count and validate the votes at today's meeting, the 12 nominees enumerated and listed with their respective profiles in the definitive information statement are declared duly elected directors. The percentage of votes garnered by each director based on the number of shares represented in this meeting are shown on the screen. As listed, Mr. Chairman, the newly elected directors are as follows: Mr. Hans T.C., Mr. Gilbert U.D., Mr. Romeo D. Uyan Jr., Mr. Peter S.D., Mr. Joaquin T.D., Mr. Herbert T.C., Mr. Harley T.C., Mr. Jose T. Shaw, independent directors Ms. Margarita L. San Juan, Mr. Philip S. L. Chai, Ms. Claire Ann T. Yap, and Mr. Genaro V. Lapez.
Thank you, Madam Secretary. Let us now proceed to the next item in the agenda. Number 9 in the agenda is the appointment of external auditor. May I ask Ms. Claire Ann Yap, Chairperson of the Audit Committee, to make the recommendation?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The Audit Committee, composed of myself, Director Joaquin D., and Independent Director Philip Chai, evaluated the performance in the past year of Sisip Gores Velayo and Company, the bank's current external auditor, and found it to be satisfactory. The Audit Committee, as well as the Board of Directors, agreed to endorse the reappointment of Sisip Gores Velayo and Company as the bank's external auditor for the ensuing year.
Thank you, Ms. Yap. I will now ask our secretary to present the proposed resolution of this item and the voting results.
Mr. Chairman, the adoption of the resolution shown on the screen is being proposed relative to the reappointment of the external auditor. On the voting results, Mr. Chairman, 2,111,690,842 shares, or 99.99% of the shares represented in this meeting, voted in favor of the resolution. The resolution is approved.
Thank you. The next item in the agenda is the adoption of the amendment of bylaws. In the regular meeting held on February 1, 2023, your board approved the amendment of the bylaws of the bank. Madam Secretary, may we have the proposed resolution and the voting results?
Mr. Chairman, the proposed amendment to Article 8, Section 1B of the bylaws relating to the disposition of the bank's net earnings aims to afford the bank more flexibility going forward and at the same time share with its employees more definitively the financial growth the bank has enjoyed over the years. The proposed amendment is included in the bank's definitive information statement. The adoption of the resolution flashed on the screen is being proposed in relation to this matter, Mr. Chairman. On the voting results, Mr. Chairman, 2,111,690,842 shares, representing 99.99% of the shares represented in this meeting and 78.46% of the total outstanding shares voted in favor of the resolution. The resolution is approved, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Madam Secretary. Before we proceed, I am glad to announce that your Board of Directors, in a meeting held on April 19, 2023, approved and declared the following cash dividend. Regular cash dividend of 1 peso per share and special cash dividend of 90 centavos per share. The total peso amount of the cash dividend is 5.113 billion from the 4.037 billion last year. Further, your board approved to set and or recommend May 5 as the record date and May 18 as the payment or issue date of the cash dividend, with the closing book from May 8 to May 18, 2023. Your board also approved to delegate to the President and CEO the authority to change the said dates as may be required to comply with the regulatory requirements. We will now address questions and comments from the stockholders sent via email. As mentioned in the guidelines for participation in this meeting, which was posted on the bank's website and included in the information sheet. Any questions or comments submitted and received but not addressed during this live stream shall be answered directly by email to the stockholder concerned. Let me now call on our Head of Investor and Corporate Relations Group, Mr. Doji Florentino, who will read aloud the questions and comments together with the names of the stockholders who sent them.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. We have a few questions addressed to Mr. Romy Uyan. The first question being from Mr. Alan Secreto. As the new president and CEO of the bank, what do you want to achieve over the next 5 years?
Thank you for your question, Mr. Secreto. We want to maintain our leadership position in the businesses where we hold a dominant presence while enhancing the quality of products and service offerings in areas where we can further improve. We aim to reduce the gap between China Bank and the Big Three. To achieve this, we will continue to nurture the close relationships we have with our customers and aim to become their primary bankers. We will create teams and support units to help us re-engineer and improve our operational processes. We will make the necessary investments in manpower and technology to enable us to attain our goals. The bank will make extensive investments to enhance our digital capabilities, to improve our ability to acquire new clients, and to develop our new products expertise. We will continue to tap the vast ecosystem of our existing customers and of the SM Group to further expand our client base.
Thank you, Mr. Uyan. We have a second question, this time from Mr. Raymond Morgado. How is China Bank responding to the changing landscape, specifically digital non-banks, mobile wallets, and digital banks?
Let me try my best to answer that, Mr. Morgado. The bank's digital transformation journey is focused on better serving the evolving needs of our clients brought about by the emergence of new technologies. Customers are now empowered and demand consistency and immediacy, as well as personalized services across multiple channels. We are enhancing our existing customer touchpoints and deploying new platforms to enable the bank's frontliners to engage clients across the different stages of the customer lifecycle. The bank will leverage data analytic tools to provide meaningful solutions to our customers and enable us to make better decisions to support their needs. Finally, we will also continue to prioritize digital projects that would address existing customer pain points and help expand their transactional capabilities. We will prioritize applications that can be immediately implemented.
Okay. We have a follow-up question from Mr. Morgado. How do growing concerns on cybersecurity and fraud factor into the digital strategy?
Cybersecurity and fraud controls are among top concerns of the board. All digital initiatives, particularly those that impact customer touchpoints, including support processes, are subjected to vulnerability and risk impact assessments. We are also constantly strengthening our fraud management systems to allow us to detect, prevent, and react to cybersecurity threats immediately.
Thank you, Mr. Uyan. I believe we have time for one more question. This time from Mr. Jose Luis Alcoas Jr. Does the bank have any direct and or indirect exposures to Silicon Valley Bank, First Republic Bank, Signature Bank, and Credit Suisse, either funding or asset side? If yes, how significant are these exposures?
Thank you for the question, Mr. Alquas. China Bank has no exposure to Credit Suisse, SVB, First Republic, Signature Bank, or any other U.S. regional banks. The issues with these banks will have no impact on our operations and services. As part of our stringent credit and investment review processes, we conduct periodic analysis and reviews of our exposures to identify and mitigate any unwanted credit and counterparty risks.
Thank you, Mr. Uyan. Mr. Chairman, I believe that ends our Q&A session. Again, for questions that we have not addressed, we will answer them directly via email. And for those shareholders who still wants to send questions, they can send them through the address displayed on the screen. Over to you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Doji. Thank you, Romy. If there's no other matters to be taken up, we'll go to our number 12 item in the agenda, which is adjournment. I would like to adjourn our meeting. Again, on the behalf of our Board of Directors and management of China Bank, we express our gratitude to all those who participated in this afternoon's meeting. Thank you, everyone, for your continued support.